Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Kids Church. I'm so excited that you could join us here this morning. This month in Kids Kingdom, we'll be learning about the story of David and Goliath. This month's memory verse is 1 Samuel 17, verse 47. The battle is the Lord's, and He will deliver you into our hands. Today, we'll be learning more about the Bible story together. We'll do a craft, and we'll also get to worship God. First of all, let's stand up and worship God together.
Hi everybody, my name is David.
And I'm Johnny.
And we're really excited to be able to worship God with you this morning. And our first song we're going to sing is I'm in the Lord's Army. I may never march in the infantry, ride in the cavalry, shoot the artillery. I may never fly over the enemy, but I'm in the Lord's army. Yes, sir. I'm in the Lord's army. Yes, sir. I'm in the Lord's army. Yes, sir. I may never march in the infantry, ride in the cavalry, shoot the artillery. I may never fly over the enemy, but I'm in the Lord's army. Yes, sir. All right, great singing, everybody. And now for the second song, This Little Light of Mine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Oh, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. When I go to church, I'm gonna let it shine. Oh, when I go to church, I'm gonna let it shine. When I go to church, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Oh, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. All right, fantastic singing, everybody.
Morning everyone, I'm Fetzer.
I'm Menta.
And I'm Bonnie.
And this morning we'll learn about David and Goliath. And there came out from the camp of the Philistines a champion named Goliath of Gath, whose height was 6 cubits and a span. He had a helmet of bronze on his head. He was armed with a coat of mail. He had a bronze armor on his legs and a javelin of bronze slung between his shoulders. He stood out and shouted to the ranks of Israel, "Why have you come out to draw up for battle? Am I not a Philistine, and are you not servants of Saul? Choose a man for yourself and let him come down to me." But David said to Saul, "Your servant used to keep sheep for his father, and when there came a lion or a bear and took a lamb from the flock, I went after him and struck him and delivered it out of his mouth. And if he rose against me, I caught him by the beard and struck him and killed him. Your servant has struck down, so will he, this uncircumcised Philistine. And David said, the Lord who delivered me from the paw of the lion will deliver me from the hand of this Philistine. And Saul said to David, go, and the Lord be with you. Then he took his staff in his hand and chose 5 smooth stones from the brook and put it in his shepherd's pouch. His sling was in his hand, and he approached the Philistine. And David put his hand in his bag and took out a stone and slung it and struck the Philistine on his forehead. The stone sunk into his forehead and he fell on his face to the ground.
Thanks for watching.
Menta and Vonnie's Slapstick Theatre.
Enjoy.
Bye!
Hope you enjoyed that performance.
For you to imagine how big Goliath was, look at this.
To imagine how big Goliath's shield was, look at this.
For you to imagine how difficult it was to hit his forehead, look at this video. Just like in the story of David and Goliath, we all have big and scary things in our lives that are difficult to face. What are some of these examples you can think of?
For me, it's playing against rough and really tall people in netball.
For me, it's losing in tennis.
For me, doing something challenging at the workplace that I don't really have much information about. But as in the story that we just looked at, God can really help us if we trust in Him and if we have faith. So think of the things you can face this week and pray for it and ask your parents to help you, and hope you have a great Sunday. Bye!
Hi kids! Today we're going to make this craft to help to remind us that David only used 1 slingshot and 5 stones to defeat the tall giant that was Goliath. This craft also reminds us that even though we go through bad things in our life, God is there to help us. To make this craft, you will need 1 A4 sheet of white paper, 3 paddle pop sticks, 1 piece of string that has been cut or a pipe cleaner, scissors to cut, glues, five pom-poms, or you can use brown paper. The first thing you're going to do is take your glue stick and glue the back of the paddle pop sticks and then stick them to the piece of paper. You're going to make a slingshot using the paddle pop sticks on the piece of paper. Next, you're going to take your piece of string or your pipe cleaner and you're going to stick it in the middle of the slingshot. Your 5 pom-poms represent the stones. You're going to take these and glue them onto the piece of paper. If you don't have pom-poms, you can use a brown piece of paper or a white piece of paper and cut 5 stones out of the paper and then stick them on. The last thing you're going to do is write the memory verse at the top of the piece of the paper. The memory verse is 1 Samuel 17, verse 47. You can then write, "For the battle is the Lord's."
Welcome back, everyone. Hope you enjoyed today. Now let's sing one last final song together, and that song is, you guessed it, the Sea of Galilee. So let's all stand and sing. There's a sea, there's a sea, there's a sea of Galilee. There's a sea, there's a sea, there's a sea of Galilee. There's a sea, there's a sea, there's a sea of Galilee. There's a boat in the Sea of Galilee. There's a boat in the Sea of Galilee. There's a boat, there's a boat. There's a boat in the Sea of Galilee. There are men in the boat in the Sea of Galilee. There are men in the boat in the Sea of Galilee. There are men, there are men, there are men in the boat in the Sea of Galilee. There are hands in the men in the boat in the Sea of Galilee. There are hands in the men in the boat in the Sea of Galilee. There are hands, there are hands. There are hands in the men in the boat in the Sea of Galilee. There are nets in the hands in the men in the boat in the Sea of Galilee. There are nets in the hands of the men in the boat in the Sea of Galilee. There are nets, there are nets. There are nets in the hands of the men in the boat in the Sea of Galilee. There are fish in the nets in the hands of the men in the boat in the Sea of Galilee. There are fish in the nets in the hands of the men in the boat in the Sea of Galilee. There are fish, there are fish. There are fish in the nets in the hands of the men in the boat in the Sea of Galilee. There are many, many fish in the nets in the hands of the men in the boat in the Sea of Galilee. There are many, many fish in the nets in the hands of the men in the boat in the Sea of Galilee. There are many, many fish, there are many, many fish, there are many, many fish in the nets in the hands of the men in the boat in the Sea of Galilee. Woohoo! Well done, everyone. Now I hope you all have a fantastic day, and thanks for joining us. Woo.